we're back on Virtual Channel Network, and we're doing department stories, and I'm continuing my conversation with Beth Hoppe. Hi, you've done it all, haven't you? Is there anything you haven't done that you would want to do?
I would love to do like a huge budget film, like a crazy, crazy huge budget film. Nothing like an Avatar thing, but
I know. Wouldn't that be fun? Avatar would have been awesome.
There wasn't much costume because it was all cartoons.
Cartoons,
yeah. So, but something like huge and catastrophic. And the woman that I used to work for, she did that the End of the World movie that just came out.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to work on that. I was really upset that I didn't get to go do that with her, but just because cool. I think just to be able to keep track, because you shoot out of order. A movie or a TV show is not shot in order, so with wardrobe and hair, makeup, and continuity, that's the hardest thing. And I think that would be really challenging and fun, and to go on a movie like that traveled around and goes on location.
Yeah.
I've always been working on a set, and I'd like to go on location.
Back traveling around and stuff, that would be good. So for people getting into this industry, wanting to get into this industry, I know you've had a lot of people you knew or something, or a lot of your connections, but what about, how would you suggest that they would get into the industry?
In order to work on most films and almost all television, you have to be in the union. So in order to get in the union, you have to have 30 days on a show, which is kind of their catch-22 because you can't get in the union unless you work, but you can't work unless you're in the union. The best way is to go work at a costume house at one of the studios. Like Paramount has one, Warner Brothers has one. They're independent ones like Western Costume and CRC. And just research all the costume houses and just, honestly, it's persistence and calling them all the time and trying to get in there. And if you're in the city, just walk in there. And, if you're persistent and they can see that you really want to be a part of this industry, because a lot of people do think I just shop for a living. Yeah. And it's a lot more than that. And
it sounds like it.
It's a lot more than that's the fun part.
I'm exhausted just talking to you.
That's the fun part, is when you get to the level where you can shop all day. But, getting in before, and working at a costume house is great if you are interested in working on a big period film, because they have costumes there, original clothes from the 1800s that are all wrapped up, and you get to have hands-on. A costume house for me is like heaven, because it's just a warehouse full of amazing vintage clothes. So working at a costume house, you become familiar with styles and time periods, and then you're also meeting all kinds of costumers and stylists that if you work it right, you could get hired by them. Yeah. And that's the easiest way in. And then every department store in Los Angeles has a studio services, which is where the shoppers go and shop. So you don't just shop with a credit card. You go through studio services and you kind of rent the clothes until you decide if you're buying them or returning them. So Macy's, Barney's, Neiman Marcus, Lord, everyone has a studio service. And that's a really good place because that's much more intimate than a costume house. And you can meet all the, stylists and costumers there, and that's pretty much the only way in. They make it really tricky, but...
Wow. So when you get a character, so I'll think about what I'm going to go to. When they say, okay, your character is going to be James Franco doing what? Let's say Robert Pattinson. Okay, so somebody says, okay, you're going to be styling for Robert Pattinson, and it's for New Moon. How would you go about, where would you start, how you would dress him or undress him?
I guess that process is so collaborative with the entire crew. It's the director, it's the actor, it's the producer, it's the costume designer, it's everybody kind of, I guess when you're reading a script, you automatically have a picture in your head, just like reading a book. And so I think for a costume designer, that's where you just start. When you're reading the script, you just start taking notes and thinking of, who do you picture when you're reading this, and what are they wearing? And it all depends on time period. And we had an interesting thing on He's Just Not That Into. They were supposed to be in Baltimore, so we had to think, that people in Baltimore aren't wearing Chanel suits. Like,
Yeah.
the women are wearing, Banana Republic, and you have to think about where they are and who they are and what their income is. And there's, the whole list of age, lifestyle. What do they do? There was one character who was really sporty, so she was always in like fleece zip-ups. And when you think of that actor, you don't think of her like that, but that was her character. And it's all just meetings and collaborations and magazine cutouts and sketches and just trying to hone in on who that character is, because I think wardrobe does get kind of pushed aside or is kind of like the last concern, but when you look at a character in a movie, their clothes really tell who they are even before they open their mouth.
Yeah, definitely. And how about the actors? Do they have a lot of say-so in what they wear?
Some really want to be involved, and some just don't care. And they know that's not their forte. They know that they know that their job is to act and just put me in whatever you want. But there are some that are really fussy, and it can seem frustrating at times, but it's also they're the ones who have to be comfortable and look like that's their character. And if they're not comfortable in clothes and they're sitting stiffly, you can read that off of them. So there are a lot that want to really be involved, and there's some that walk in like the day before shooting and are like, just fit me and I'm fine. But there's
and that's
some
the
that
best to work with, huh? Because then you could,
sometimes.
do your thing.
I mean, yeah, sometimes. But sometimes you want an opinion and a feedback, and fashion and costuming it's very personal. It's like everyone has their own personal style, and so you do want that person to tell you, like, this looks great, or like, yeah, you did a really good job. You kind of need that feedback.
Oh yeah, I guess so, huh? Because they've been in their
if
bodies
they're just
longer.
like, fine, I'll wear this, like, you don't feel like you're doing your job for them, because you're there for them to make them look good and feel good.
That's good.
I've enjoyed talking to Linda. Join us next week.